Frederick has got it all. Inspiration, motivation, great advice, and biting opinion pieces as only Eddie Frederick can deliver. Eddie Frederick has got it all.
If I take time and I write down all the things that I love on my island, best believe the list gon' be like 5 miles long. Best believe it's love that makes me sing this song. The cleanest breeze on the waters, friendly people meet in every corner. Togetherness and love is what we stand for. We stand for. We stand for.
Oh, island in the sun. Look at how we've grown, how far we've run. 50 years we strong and more to come. More to come. More to come. Going higher. 50 years we're blessed with motion fire. Still reaching for more. Going up, going up, 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 going up, going up, going up, 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 up,
Higher. Going higher. As we aspire, build up ourselves for people together. Bang, bang, bang. It's only up.
Welcome to Edification, made possible by the efforts of the Center for Democracy and Good Governance, CDGG. The Center for Democracy and Good Governance is a sound organization established to promote and strengthen democracy. For too long now, our generally perceived poorly educated electorate have fallen victim to the cheap and inferior propaganda of those seeking to hold others captive under the guise of democracy. Gladly, the CDGG uses edification to help to actively pursue a sustainable approach to reorient our people towards the importance of electing and selecting people of good character to public life. Through edification, we will highlight the importance of education appropriate to our development, proper healthcare and facilities as our right, respect for law and order, not to mention upgrading our people's thinking so they could become qualified participants in the democratic process to their advantage. After all, Grenada's national constitution makes allowances for the ideal of free men to enjoy freedom from fear and want, which can be best achieved if conditions are created whereby everyone may enjoy his economic, social and political, civil and cultural rights.
I want the best for my family, so every meal has to be perfect. Every bite has to say, There's no doubt in my mind that the best in frozen meats and vegetables has to come from the Country Cold Store. Hams, turkeys, sausages, beef, pork, chicken. I just know my family is in safe hands. Thank you, Country Cold Store, for being there for us for the past 40 years.
There are some interesting specials available at Country Cold Store's Mini Mart while stocks last. Take advantage of these specials as they assist you to stretch your limited funds.
The Country Cold Store, providing the best in frozen meats and vegetables since 1969.
The hurricane season is now upon us, so we as Caribbean people need to remember to think safety and be prepared. Avoid venturing outside during a storm or hurricane, especially if there are strong winds. Rooftops and other debris are often blown about and can cause great damage.
Attention all forward-thinking companies. Sure, you can do with a continuous positive boost to your image and impact your bottom line. Hiring the right people with the right attitude and mindset is where to start. Even if you did not get it right through your current hiring methods, we can help develop the right mindset for your current employees. If you think training is expensive, try not training, and you will experience a perpetual downward spiral in patronage on account of increased dissatisfied customers. Take things into your hands and engage the best at motivation and customer care training with a tried and tested track record. Visit www.efrederick.com now and learn how you can change the atmosphere in your business and improve the customer experience for everyone who does business with you. Spice Island Beach Resort and Belmont Estate are two such local entities of world renown that have benefited tremendously from ongoing customer care, social skills, and motivation training. Training changes everything for the better for any business and every team member. Enhance employee performance through increased awareness and passion for the job at hand. Greater potential in your workforce awaits you through engaged, high-energy training that works. Log on now, www.efrederick.com.
Eddie Frederick has got it all. Inspiration, motivation, great advice, and biting opinion pieces as only Eddie Frederick can deliver. Eddie Frederick has got it all.
Wonderful, wonderful, folks. Wonderful. And it's a plum pleasing pleasure to be with you once again. Isn't it a lovely thing to be above ground? Come on, folks. We got to love it. We can breathe. If rain fell last night, we didn't get wet. We had something to eat this morning when we got up. We live somewhere. We ate something. Ah, man, we have so much to be thankful for. You see, we have what we need to be happy. We just have to have the right perspective. So welcome to Edification 241 as we endeavor to navigate a desirable path to make our lives make sense before a short journey on earth comes to its natural end. In today's human landscape, we are just surrounded by too many idiots who are self-involved, that they have no time to see the trees for the forest, and of course the forest for the trees. Goodly folks, as soon as you come into the room today, please share, comment, like, love. Do what you got to do. Interact as you know how. Great to have you again. Let's keep this community going and growing. Thank you for your continued efforts to share long after the edition has ended. One thing all of you can vouch for is the consistency that you witnessed over the years. For I am a subscriber to the belief that consistency builds character. Of course, our angel number 241, when these three numbers, 2, 4, and 1, come together, in the angel number 241, they vibrate with energies of motivation, progress, and of course, self-confidence. This number encourages all of us to trust our instincts and take action towards our goals. But remember, folks, you must first set goals. You can't just take advantage of goals if you have none. Our topic today, folks, pushing people in an organization to improve is not an attack. It's an act of love. People don't waste time with people they do not love, admire, or have any regard for. There are some people, again, who based on their background, which was never infused with any love, when someone out of love pushes them, they feel attacked. Their poorly socialized background blinds them to the possibility that they are being helped in the moment to be in a better position, that is. Bishop Dale Browner could not have put it better when he supported this thought that no one grows without some discomfort. It is a known fact that nothing grows in a comfort zone. You see, you have to be prepared to be uncomfortable because there is something about discomfort that is associated with growth. According to the plan, we go from comfort to discomfort to greater comfort. You see, many people never want to go through the discomfort before, they actually come to any form of proper actualization. They don't want to go through the corridors of discomfort at all. But folks, you have to be able to pass through some sour to be able to appreciate the sweet. Of course, if you have nothing to compare it with, you might just like it. But when you can compare honey with vinegar, well, there's no self you're liking honey. You see, honey is the greater comfort. Vinegar could be the discomfort. You see, whenever you change and lose the familiar, you must become uncomfortable. So that is the reason why we, all of us, need people in our lives who push us to become better, whether in an organization, whether at work, at play, or just individually, folks. You see, in Grenada today, many are at the stage of discomfort, and sacrifice is necessary for greater comfort to be the end result. But the learned helplessness that the old nastiness and crew put this nation through for such an extended period, more so their supporters and ardent followers become so comfortable in that particular learned helplessness kind of environment that they become stuck in a poor and vulnerable quadrant of their very existence. This went on for so goddamn long, as I said, that they feel that is naturally their lot in life, when in truth and in fact, they need to take a page from Prime Minister Deacon Mitchell's life story. He actually was born of humble beginnings, struggled and focused on getting a sound education to the point where he evolved through our local education system, became a junior teacher at Presentation Brothers College, and moved on to study law, excelling in his studies and graduating with honors. You see, Prime Minister Deacon Mitchell was employed for a short few years as a lawyer in a legal firm in town, and was soon to become the majority shareholder and partner of that said firm before moving out completely to start his own wholly self-owned law firm, which is as accomplished as anyone can ever dream of becoming. But look at where he's coming from. Abject poverty to this. Do you call that luck? Well, people like Prime Minister Deacon Mitchell really and truly introduces you to the thought that luck is not a careless thing. Luck happens when preparation meets opportunity. And of course, my man was prepared for the opportunity. Look at him now. You see, this qualified him to transition and pivot mindfully into politics because of his successes as a local corporate lawyer, which is something some in our envious and jealous society want to hold against him, which he thrashed, you remember that, on the campaign trail ahead of the 2022 general elections. You see, that's the kind of life trail and journey our people should emulate, and not the trail and the journey of anyone who stole by way of employment, got caught, and had to sign and agree to repay the embezzled sum in order to avoid criminal prosecution. You see, that signed document is in safekeeping by quite a few people today. You see, folks, yet for all, we have some people in Grenada who have been badly damaged brain-wise over the years. How could you listen to a thief accusing a decent, honest human being of being a thief and believe that thief? Hello. You have to have brain damage. You cannot be right in your head. A thief projecting all his nastiness onto decent citizens, and you sitting down and believing the thief. Something had to be wrong with you. You're not hung up right. You were not assembled properly, folks. Any one of you out there. All of this said to embellish the point that pushing someone to improve is not an attack. It is an act of love, especially when poor examples could be drawn to show if people did not care, they would not bother. inasmuch as many of us need saving from ourselves. The truth is, if you are not conscious, you will never be able to be saved from yourself, because you will always think of the person trying to save you as an enemy and not a friend. You see, when you realize that you are stagnated and things are not going to get better for you until and unless you change, then you may put in the effort. You have to realize that if you relish becoming your relatively perfect self, it comes with a lot of goodbyes. This does not just apply to people, but diet, places, events, and activities. Mature people will tell you, with the benefit of hindsight, that the fastest way to succeed is to start now and figure out the specifics on your way. You see, in the same way, you cannot learn to drive in a parked car. You cannot learn to swim on land. You need to respect yourself. And to do this, you have to see discipline as terribly important, as it is the biggest form of self-respect. You see, you have to make darn sure that you match your words in order to be considered a man. Otherwise, you will be just a close to 80 or 90-year-old little boy who likes to talk. You see, there is a difference between sight and vision, folks. With vision being more valuable, there is a difference between those two, folks. If your vision cannot be supported by action, it is just a dream. And if your action is without vision, surely that becomes a nightmare. Always remember, day by day, what you choose, what you think, and what you do is who you become. Isn't that beautiful, folks? Always remember that. It's who you become. So you only have you to actually commend or to blame. My advice to you, folks, is to choose well. For you know what they say, stress is the result of poor choices. Stress comes from poor choices. Always. Never, ever forget that, folks. Goodly, folks, I follow a Ryan Dunlap on Instagram. And I encourage you to do the same, for he's really mentally engaging. Mentally engaging in truth and in fact. One wonderful man to follow. His confidence and the level of certainty with which he delivers is to die for. Don't talk about his subject areas. Always applicable for our needs. Ryan Dunlap. RYANDUNLAP. Remember that. As a matter of fact, let me just share it with you, because when I get these good things, I just find it is necessary to share these things, because very helpful. Very, very helpful indeed. So, in this particular reel, he deals with how we should respond to people who baselessly attack our character as follows. He says, we have to first understand that the nature of conflict is that it almost always becomes personal at some point in time. One reason why this happens is when people cannot attack or respond to the merits of an argument, they would instead resort to attacking the credibility of the person presenting the case or making the argument. So if you're doing or saying something that makes someone feel inferior, especially if what you are doing or saying is right, that person will not be able to attack the merits of your actions or words. So instead, they will attack you. Doesn't this explain things to you relating to the many personal attacks you see on social media as peddled by fake profiles? You see, when the argument is irretrievably lost, they head for the gutter. Dunlap said, they will try to call you out for your flaws and faults. They may even try to call you out for your hypocrisy. They might even lie about your character and use rumors to attack your reputation. This is said to happen in courtrooms all the time, because when attorneys cannot attack an argument that is being made, they will attack the credibility of a witness. They will intentionally get someone to compromise their character or lose composure by ruffling their feathers. When they can do that, someone's compromised character creates reasonable doubts as to their actions. So that means you have to maintain your character and composure at all times. You can and should stand up for yourself, but you have to be the beacon of self-control and decency when you do it. Because the moment you lean into bad behavior, every lie that someone ever said about you can or may become plausible in someone else's mind. So we have to be careful not to give someone any reason to believe a false narrative about us. Carry yourself with some grace and dignity, and let your actions speak for you. Now, as long as the sun still shines, folks, and you can maintain your current standard of living and quality of life with prospects for continuous improvement and growth, pay them no mind. Proceed to live well, so no one will believe them. Remember, folks, when you take care of your character, which is who you are, your reputation, which is what others think of you, will take care of itself. Pushing people in an organization to improve is not an attack. It's an act of love. Let's take a little break and we'll come back with a lot more from where this has come. A lot more.
Eddie Frederick has got it all. Inspiration, motivation, great advice, and biting opinion pieces as only Eddie Frederick can deliver. Eddie Frederick has got it all.
If I take time and I write down all the things that I love on my island, best believe the list gon' be like 5 miles long. Best believe it's love that makes me sing this song. The cleanest breeze on the waters, friendly people meeting.
Of this program.
The hurricane season is now upon us, so we as Caribbean people need to remember to think safety and be prepared. Avoid venturing outside during a storm or hurricane, especially if there are strong winds. Rooftops and other debris are often blown about and can cause great damage.
Oh, island in the sun. Look at how we've grown, how far we've run. 50 years we strong and more to come. More to come. More to come. I'm going higher. 50 years we're blessed with most fire. Still reaching for more. Going up, going up, 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 and more. Going up, going up, going up, 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 up.
Going higher as we aspire, build up ourselves, put people together. Bang, 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 slowly up.
Eddie Frederick has got it all. Inspiration, motivation, great advice, and biting opinion pieces as only Eddie Frederick can deliver. Eddie Frederick has got it all.
Wonderful, folks. And for those of you just joining, thank you. Welcome to this program. And of course, as soon as you come in the room, just do the honorable thing. Hit the share button and let's get the show on. So welcome back again. So goodly, folks, an interesting review is out. And even though it reads like it is all over the place, it contains several pearls of wisdom for the ruling Congress administration to take note of. I am not going to be like some people who, I want to let this man working for the opposition. Nonsense. Read it properly. You'll see the star of the show is Prime Minister Deacon Mitchell. And all who in the NDC that want to get trouble, you better appreciate that if it were not for him, your party wouldn't be in government. Because most of you oldsters in that party, you have a PhD in 15-0. Hello, you want me to say that again? And as long as among you in change, you will always be qualified for 15-0. So go and read the gentleman's review, Dr. Pear's review. Go and read it properly. And you'll see who the star of the show is. We have to appreciate, folks, that there is a stark difference between the party and the government. Lines which have been blurred by the old nastiness and how we operated for such an extended period between 1995 and 2022 for the most part, that lots of Grenadians don't seem to know the difference. You see how one oldster put it recently? As far as many people are concerned, NNP is the state. That is the extreme that it can be likened to. First, that old nastiness mash up this place. You see, even lots of NDC followers and other Grenadians who are not necessarily political dilettantes have come to not know the difference between party and government. And so, while the government is appearing to be steadfast in working towards changing many things and bringing substantial benefits to all our people, the party arm has fallen asleep since election and seemed to have contracted, I would call it rigor mortis, the fourth stage of death, characterized by stiffness of all organs. You see, my introduction to hitting at them, to urge them to wake up, has not been received too well by many of the parasites around the precincts of the NDC at all. But you know, I don't give two hoots. There are the terribly guilty who don't have the best thing to say about me. And that is why I am proud to say, always, that it will take a lot for any party to really get me to be a supporter. As I said many times, hey, I'm a Garyite and I'm sticking to my story. You see, my intolerance for the con artists and the goons will always benefit the NDC as long as Deacon Mitchell or any acceptable replacement is in the leadership seat of that party. Having said all of that, my total disdain for the old nastiness and, of course, his inferior style of leadership will always remain with me. And this I pledge to myself, hey, until I die. I have been calling for all who have received what they wanted by way of board appointments, whether as chairman, chairwoman, whatever it is called, the female, or ordinary members, managers, contractors, or consultants, to help do the political work. Among them are notable ones who were just about to be foreclosed upon by financial institutions, and June 22nd, 2022, saved the day for them. Yet for all, folks, these same ones can be seen moonlighting and behaving as if they are on honeymoon, totally distant from the political work that the party so desperately needs from them. Look at the several people who are standing in defense of the NDC on social media. Most of them in the diaspora, and those who are local in Grenada are not dependent on the administration for anything. I have regularly warned these same parasites that there are a few of the people in the political ring right now who it cannot be said are going to be as okay as Prime Minister Deacon Mitchell long after his political days are over, as he has a wonderful and successful, thriving legal practice to return to, or to just stay home and depend on honorariums from. The same can be said of the creative genius Orlando Kijana Romaine. Former Chief Magistrate Teddy St. Louis will be quite content to return to his private practice, of course. You see, folks, people like that could afford to take the rest of their life light. Mr. Andy Williams has been doing a wonderful service and filling the need at his groceries business, which is of absolute necessity in these times, here, so and now. So just off the top of my head, I can speak for and of these four. There are more, but I have to stop here because I have other turkeys to fry during this program. What can we say for and on behalf of a lot of others, except to feel serious stock taking needs to be done, especially if elements around the NDC, whether in the cabinet or in the party's leadership, do not take some serious introspection. Just off the top of my head, I can tell you, a few of them in the candidate quadrant cannot, hello, my stress is on the word cannot, be seriously thinking of returning as candidates. All on their own, they should be that conscious, far less to end up having to be told so by someone else. Serious replacement talks need to start with urgency. When you are going to hear that 2 years after such a convincing victory, some of these constituencies could be perceived to be in dead heat with a deadbeat party, this tells you serious stock taking is absolutely necessary. You see, last week I made the point that when the opposition sees it as necessary to go after Prime Minister Deacon Mitchell, Andy Williams, Ron Redhead, Tevin Andrew, while seeking to demonize their former colleague, Delma Thomas, it tells you these are the stalwarts who can carry the NDC to victory, as they are deemed to be strong and with serious influence and likability. Folks who vex, listen to what's coming now. Delma Thomas, without a doubt, must be the candidate for the NDC in the constituency that she now represents in the parliament. I have seen no one who has shown that they are qualified to be that candidate instead of her. Who vexed, I among your business, but find your place and know your goddamn place, whoever you are. Anybody who has any other ideas must be sent to a place where they line up marbles sequentially in one's head for fear that their marbles may be out of place. You see, the names which have not been mentioned must never for a moment feel safe because they are off the radar of the National Nasty Party's attacks. It is because they are deemed harmless, easy to devour otherwise. So, changes in candidates are a must, as some people can be seen to be surrounded by others who are not helpful to them in one way or other, but who are just eating a food, as if they catch what the people they use to criticize have. I have always warned people I encounter, whether in training rooms or during one-on-ones, surrounding yourself with people who uplift you, hold you accountable, and challenge you to reach your potential is essential. You see, the transformative journey with such people of excellence must exceed your own expectations of yourself. This experience will not just be about professional excellence. It will become a profound path of personal growth and invaluable insights that must continue to inspire you. You see, some of you are already at the C grade, hanging out with fellow C graders and lower. There cannot be any hope for upliftment if you continue to line with like minds. Hang out with them and see where you end up. When you become the brightest person in your group, it is time to change your goddamn group. Why somebody had to tell you that? You're supposed to know that. You see, the level of deceit that the National Nasty Party's leadership operates with in a totally dunsified environment like ours has become, because we dive into the lolly drain, which was purposely and painstakingly brought to that stage to make it easy for them to become entitled and dependent, rendering them a perfect fit for the vote farm of the old nastiness, is something that must not be taken for granted, and it must always be taken into consideration when any member of the NDC, whether in government or in the party, is out and about. The public service has about just over 4,000 properly appointed by the Public Service Commission. And then the government treasury is saddled with another 3,600 or thereabout who are on contract, with no care for how the state will pay them. But all they know, they want to be regularized like the PSC appointed thousands at no cost to them, regardless of whether the state can afford it or not, aided and abetted by their mindless union leaders. You see, after listening to Prime Minister Deacon Mitchell explain the contributory pension plan going forward for the approximately 3,600 public officers whom the pension disqualification does not cover, like the already 4,000 odd that it does, how could a union in fair conscience not cooperate with the employers of their members, knowing that so many public officers are not covered currently and are likely to go home with nothing upon retirement if they do not agree to contributing 3% of their salary for something that would benefit them in the long run, while government matches it with another 3%. Folks, I can't understand that at all. And when you think of it, the administration that littered the public service with this 3,000 odd additional contracted people had absolutely no intention of regularizing them. None whatsoever. Could you imagine that? And you get a government that is probably the most pro-worker administration. Never mind what the union leaders are trying to project when cats stole their tongues for the most part between 1995 and 2022. Could you imagine that? We just have a lot of con people in Grenada, liars, dishonest people in leadership positions who are just what do you call them? Trumpers. Project, deflect. What kind? Here must be hell, and we don't know. Because I cannot understand, not for the life of me, how a man could get up in the morning and his intention for the day is tomfoolery. I can't understand that. Dishonesty, lies. But where we gone? Grenada must be hell and we don't even know it. It's sad. Folks, I want to advise each and every one to go and listen to the Prime Minister, the decent Mitchell that is, and you would see why he has been a successful corporate lawyer who transitioned into politics and well on his way to being a force to be reckoned with, as has been shown by the reveal by Dr. Justin Pear in his most recent review. We have to remember that Dr. Pear is the same labor market and migration consultant and head of the Canadian-based group known as Dunn, Pear, Barnett and Company Limited that focuses on things such as forced migration, human trafficking, and migrant struggling. He is also a man to be proud of, coming from humble beginnings, but has excelled. These are the people we must emulate, not old thief, not looking at a thief with all his spoils and all his material, whatever, and saying, but a man's smart boy. No, he's a thief. That is all that man is, whoever that man is. You see, folks, in a recent article on Friday's online edition of New Today, Dr. Pear said, if an election is called at the moment, the NDC will be starting with an advantage due to the current uncertainty in the NNP camp between the close to 80 aging Dr. Keith Mitchell and his former Agriculture Minister, Peter David, who's trying to replace him as the new party boss. Folks, keeping up appearances by being on the same platform when you don't like each other, only fools that could fool, you know. My take is, regardless of when the elections are called, the NDC under the leadership of Deacon Mitchell will be starting with the advantage of having a decent leader. You see, according to Pear, quote, one of the main reasons is that the Prime Minister, Deacon Mitchell, is very believable. When he speaks, he demands urgent attention. He speaks better than Dr. Mitchell, Dr. Keith Mitchell. He speaks with more authority. So he grabs your attention, and as a result, it is attracting the youth and has the edge, he said. You see, the only advantage right now that the NDC has over the NNP is that of leadership. Prime Minister Deacon Mitchell is more believable when he speaks. He demands attention. He's clearer. He's more forceful. He's more believable. He comes out as somebody who has a high level of trust. The people trust him, and that is very good for the NDC at this point in time, Dr. Pear said. I always wanted to find out, folks, approximately how many people were placed on the vote farm. And even if I'm still to discern how many actually make up the vote farm, I have a start with the numbers. Could you imagine Dr. Pear signals that roughly 15,000 people, mostly women with children, who often depend on some type of handout from the NNP and have consistently voted for the party in the last 4 general elections, and that is a factor to look at in any election. Folks, that the old nastiness, wicked in truth, you know. To have such a large swath of people depending on crumbs just to be permanently placed on a vote farm where their lives cannot improve, so that he could tell you and tell them how he cares about them being poor and vulnerable. Folks, that has to be evil. Just recently, someone and I were actually in conversation, and we were actually discussing how the transformation agenda ought to proceed. And a suggestion was made that there should be a transformation steering group with an executive director and a support staff to take care of making sure its vision and mission are achieved and take serious root in the first term of the NDC administration. This should not be without relevant outreach programs to the 15 constituencies, educating and motivating young people with a view to transforming their thinking and thus equipping them with a better feeling of and for themselves. You see, of course, Dr. Peril has told us what we already know about the NDC as a party, with a non-functionary in the position of General Secretary. Interestingly, he wrote the General Secretary a letter which was somewhat published in the same online edition of the New Today. Maybe the NDC will listen to a man like Dr. Peril, who is saying the same thing we already know and would have uttered to several members of the same NDC and were dismissed, especially by the opportunists and lazy lumpens within. I believe if serious action is not taken by the man who this survey shows has the pepper sauce, Prime Minister Deacon Mitchell, that is, and therefore is the boss, without whom the party ain't stand a chance, well, they will be doing so at their collective peril. I happen to know Prime Minister Deacon Mitchell well enough to know he's not about to allow anyone who will not carry their weight to add uncertainty and even to add unnecessarily to his burden. You see, he's not known to have done it in his legal career, and I doubt very much that he will allow it in his political life. We all who have been standing in the gap in defense of the NDC under Deacon Mitchell's leadership because we love him must be ready and willing to defend him at all costs with whatever decision he takes to right side the ship of state and the party in particular. The General Secretary, who fought hard for the position and ended up doing nothing with it, hello, listen to me, folks, must be replaced urgently. He must go. You remember when you were growing up, folks, and your neighbor chasing you from, go from here? That's what the NDC, y'all ought to get serious. Go from here. Pelt him out. He is nothing short of a bloody disgrace. The situation with the chaos in the main opposition, with the underbelly being pregnant with intrigue, subterfuge, and counter-subterfuge, is dominated by trickery and tomfoolery and must be taken advantage of. So you see, when I push people in the NDC to improve, it's not an attack. It's an act of love, because I care about the greater good. I care about them not being mindless of their own security, and I care about the organization they are part of. But look at who's doing the caring. A consummate Garyite with justifiable disdain for the old nastiness. So you see the statement, pushing people in an organization to improve is not an attack. It's an act of love, reflects a perspective on leadership and team development that frames constructive pressure as a positive, compassionate act rather than criticism and aggression. You see, pushing people to improve can indeed be an act of love, period. It is so unfortunate that the circles which demand by the very nature of the gentle, well-meaning souls that make them up, that this act of love be carried out thoughtfully, with empathy, and in a way that prioritizes their growth and well-being, are so few and far between. People have become so intertwined with bombast and arrogance on account of their built-in overinflated egos that when you push them to improve, they have to know that you are serious, or else they take you for a joke. and your efforts go down the drain, making you become disillusioned and unwilling to help anyone else going forward. You see the consistency at which our current disheveled society has been deteriorating on account of the abysmally poor leadership for such an extended period of time within the last 30 years, which covers the lifespan of a generation, leads someone like me, who is involved in the activity of human development for just 1 year shy of 40, to become cynical about our prospects for change in the short run. We have become so accustomed to the orchestrated efforts to render us useless and totally dependent that the use of traditional psychological methods to get messages of care and hope across are bound to fail. You see, the learned helplessness that so many operate by, as a matter of course, governs the new comfort zone that many are resistant to new thinking and ideas when they are floated. You see, so many people and their actions either cannot be understood readily, or for the few who might be understood, they are ignorant of a lot of things, and they are ignored and totally disregarded. Folks, understanding this as a reflection of the sought-after result of the original intention of the wicked and evil leadership style of the old nastiness for such a long time, which has served to cripple the human landscape, where people are happy to be regarded as poor and vulnerable, and therefore cannot see themselves worthy of evolving to the next level. I have taken the hardline approach to dispense tough love in my approach to tackling the issues as I see them, folks, and I'm well qualified to do so. You know why? I am not all about, I no longer socialize, I no longer mingle, I no longer mix. Hello? Trust me, folks, if I truly did not care, I would not be playing any role whatsoever. It is because I care I elect to stand in the gap to see what I can do to help until my light is out in this life. So, pushing people in an organization to improve is not an attack. It is an act of love. If such organization have wrong people in it, somebody had to point them out, and somebody have to tell them about it. And I volunteer to be that person. Because as I always say, I'm not looking for a friend. We have a country to take care of and to turn around. If it took 30 years to bring it to the pit of hell, it cannot take 5 years to take it out. And all you freeloaders who play you manager and consultant and all kind of nonsense, you better get with the program and pull up your sleeves. Otherwise, I shall be calling you out so people could know who the parasites are. Because that's all you have been for the last 2 years. Parasites. Let's take a little break. Getting hot under the collar here. Take a little break and we come right back with more. Of course, you know there's a lot more where that comes from.
Eddie Frederick has got it all. Inspiration, motivation, great advice, and biting opinion pieces as only Eddie Frederick can deliver. Eddie Frederick has got it all.
This is Edification, made possible by the efforts of the Center for Democracy and Good Governance, CDGG. The strength of views and opinions expressed during edification are not necessarily a reflection or representation of the sponsors and/or affiliates of this program.
The hurricane season is now upon us, so we as Caribbean people need to remember to think safety and be prepared. Avoid venturing outside during a storm or hurricane, especially if there are strong winds. Rooftops and other debris are often blown about and can cause great damage.
Oh, island in the sun. Look at how we've grown, how far we've run. 50 years we strong and more to come. More to come.
All together. Bang, bang, bang. It's only up.
Eddie Frederick has got it all. Inspiration, motivation, great advice, and biting opinion pieces as only Eddie Frederick can deliver. Eddie Frederick has got it all.
Wonderful, folks. And for those of you just joining, welcome, welcome, welcome. It's a plum pleasing pleasure to have you. Do the honorable thing. Just hit the share button. Come on, get ready to comment, get ready to interact, because we like interaction on this program. Welcome back. Folks, isn't it a crying shame that leadership in both the entire local, secular, and religious sphere have been seriously wanting in Grenada, with the political aspect of the secular dominating all aspects, to the point where many grew to take their cue from these poor examples, which we call politicians, and hence the old mass that we play in our society today. Sad to say, but religious got majorly absorbed by the fangs of the devil, to the point where many leaders are known to have been and continue to support the old nastiness, the architect of our society's decimation over the extended period. So here's a comprehensive outlook on why, when approached with a firm care and stern authenticity, this style of encouragement can foster supportive and thriving organizational culture, as long as you are not taken personally. You see, leaders, whether in the secular to include political or in the religious, who encourage continuous improvement, believe in the potential of the organization or entity through its team members. By pushing people to refine skills, tackle challenges, and stretch beyond their comfort zone, proper leaders will be showing faith in what their followers can achieve. Folks, only inferior leaders pound their followers on their heads to make them submissive to them for their own benefit. The purpose is not to criticize, but to support continuous development. Followers who understand this intention are more likely to see the push for improvement as an investment in their success, not a dismissal of their current abilities. You see, an environment where followers are engaged to evolve helps individuals build resilience and adaptability, which, of course, are crucial in today's fast-changing world. Over time, this prepares them not just to handle challenges, but to excel in them. An organization or entity where improvement is encouraged tends to foster high standards as a constant. This leads to better performance, more engagement, and often a higher quality of work, benefiting both individuals and, of course, the organization. When leaders provide constructive feedback with kindness, they establish trust. The intent becomes clear. The push for improvement comes from a place of genuine care, not from a desire to belittle or control. You see, when obscene language with threats are absent, people respect and trust such leader. With clear communication, followers feel safe to take risks, ask for help, and experiment without fear of ridicule or reprimand. You see, this freedom to explore and make mistakes is a foundation of both personal and organizational growth. Just as in personal relationships, folks, natural encouragement strengthens bonds. Leaders who express belief in their team members, combined with a push to improve, show that they are invested in both the individual's and the organization's future. A leader's gentle nudge towards growth can be a powerful motivator, inspiring employees or even the followers to strive for more than they thought possible. This level of empowerment can increase job satisfaction as followers feel their work has purpose and that they're seen as individuals with potential. You see, in organizations where improvement isn't encouraged, followers may stagnate or lose motivation altogether. By contrast, a culture of development ensures people stay proactive, learning and prepared for both internal and external changes. Improvement pushes followers to innovate in their roles, helping them to find new efficiencies, develop better solutions, and contribute more effectively to the organization or the entity's goals. You see, for pushing to truly be an act of love, leaders must be empathetic and sensitive to each individual's circumstances. Improvement efforts should be personalized with timing and intensity that respects each follower's unique pace and challenges. Clear, achievable goals should accompany encouragement to avoid overwhelm and burnout. A leader's role here is to balance motivation with practical, incremental goals that steadily foster growth. Doesn't that help people get rid of weaknesses? Of course. You see, followers who are encouraged to improve often find benefits beyond the organization. Personal confidence, skills, and a growth mindset can be strengthened, enhancing both career satisfaction and personal fulfillment. When followers feel that leaders genuinely care about their development, they're often more loyal and committed to the organization or entity. This can lead to lower levels of disenchantment, stronger morale, and an inclusive, positive, and involved culture. Isn't that beautiful, folks? You see, in essence, pushing people to improve, when done with respect and genuine care, becomes an act of love that enhances their skills, confidence, and overall satisfaction. It is about striking a balance where encouragement feels supportive rather than controlling, challenging, yet compassionate. You see, when done well, this approach can transform an organization or entity into a dynamic place where everyone feels empowered to reach their full potential. You want to consider yourself a leader? I hope you're following this. If you can't do these things, get out. Go about your business. Because what Grenadians may have gotten accustomed to between 1995 and 2022 for the most part is rubbish. That's not leadership. Rubbish. Could you imagine the level of projection this old nastiness is prepared to involve himself in just to transfer all his sins against Grenada and all her citizens to the Deacon Mitchell-led administration? I told you already, the shallowness of so many people, to include most, if not all, his followers, believe him, while some in the rest of the population who don't pay attention are questioning his accusative projections, among whom you will even have some unfocused and easily distracted, disgruntled NDC supporters. That is how effective this oldster has been in his efforts to duncify the population, having them in a rare form of stupor. He can project without question, and just like Trump, have them repeat what he says as ascribed to the sitting administration. So you see why he is to be referred correctly as Tropical Trump. Could you imagine Grenada became known as scandal plagued under all of the tenure of this old nastiness, who made sure, in order that the name wrongthings.com be properly ascribed to him and his goons posing as government, ensured that he dismantled the Royal Grenada Police Force and got many of the seniors under his tenure to pledge allegiance to him. Why was that? So that wrongthings.com could have proceeded unabated and thrived. You see, yet for all, he is uttering the following words. Folks, listen to this. Listen to this. This is so interesting. Listen to this.
When NNP ever take reins, as we certainly will, as a political organization, friends, you expect to see we'll have to clean up a lot of mess. But I think Gregory pointed out something, and I have to repeat it. Because it doesn't matter who leads NNP in government, but NNP would have to ensure that if people did wrongs and took the people's money wrongfully, they have to be accountable for that action, sisters and brothers. So those who believe they don't have to obey rules, they could break the laws of the country with impunity. We will have people to deal with that, sister. They're not going to be the politician, because the politician don't get involved in charging people. But the law will have to take its course. So we're issuing a warning to those who believe that they can do as they want, because we know a lot of nonsense taking place.
Folks, hold your breath for a minute. Could you believe that? And people clapping, you know. You think these people are clapping really alive? You think they have a brain in their head? No, boy. I think a lot of people in Grenada have become now to the point where the only reason why they have a head is to keep their ears apart. People clapping, you know. After all the intransigencies and the ills committed against the people of this country. But why did he dismantle and mash up, decimate the police force? Why some of the seniors had to pledge allegiance to him? Hello? So he insulates himself. Wrongthings.com. That's what the NNP has become or became over the extended period. Wrongthings.com. I'm sure if you go wrongthings.com is a picture of he and them you see it. Could you imagine that? Disgusting. I don't know who the author of the following is, but I first read it on Randall Robinson's Facebook page, captioned, "Another Letter." And it could not be a more fitting response to this old nastiness and his rants. He should be in jail saying that. I listened with, quote here now, another letter. Quote, I listened with utter disbelief to him warning that once the NNP returns to the helm of leadership, they will go after those who abuse the resources of the state of Grenada. I laughed because he should not be a free man making this statement. He should be in jail. This man's tenure in office has caused Grenada severe pain. The level of wastage under the NNP was humongous. I find it hard to believe that he has so soon forgotten all the atrocities committed against Grenada by him and his colleagues while in office. But his comments also remind us that no one should be above the law. And if he was held accountable for the country's mismanagement, he may have thought long and hard before saying what he said. Does he believe we have forgotten the millions of dollars taken from the country and given to his cousin to run a call center? He said his cousin would repay every black cent. To date, not 1 cent was paid back to the treasury. Grenadians were left to repay that money. Who went after him? How could the money of the country be wasted so severely and no one was held accountable? Should the current government begin investigating and acting against those involved in those most diabolical acts? A careful look at his tenure in office will show that there was wanton disregard for the proper use of the nation's resources. Does he believe we have forgotten that he has not accounted for Grenada Airways? Why is it that after so many years, we do not know what happened to the plane? Who was the buyer? How much was the plane sold for? Where has the money gone? How is it that no one has held him, who was the Minister of Civil Aviation at the time, accountable for the plane? Does he believe we have forgotten about the fowl farm, the shrimp farm, the Garden Group fiasco, and the E.J. Miller issue? We have not forgotten. We still do not know about the Leverard Development Project and the millions of dollars given to crooks and con men. We are still paying back for the banana field in Pointsfield, St. Patrick. And what about the millions unaccounted for in ghost projects? Why was no inquiry held into these matters to make those who abused our country's resources repay them? He and people like him should be ashamed to talk about our resources. Does he believe we have forgotten about the report from the Peril Commission? Does he think we have forgotten about the abuse of Grenlick, Gravel and Concrete, and other statutory boards under the ministry he headed at the time? His legacy has been tainted with mismanagement, corruption, and lies. He has done more harm to Grenada's image than any other, yet he remains free. His statement resembles Donald Trump's call to lock up Hillary Clinton and others. Trump now faces a real possibility of being locked up himself. He might well be advised to let sleeping dogs sleep. He has no moral authority to threaten to jail anyone for wastage. This statement should be made in jail, unquote. That is so properly written, folks, and nice. If only our police force were allowed to function as it ought to, as a constitutionally provided for body with its own powers, and if only officers were not personally compromised. According to that letter, he should be in jail saying that. In fact, save and except for the pleadings of a couple of the members of the Grenada Shipping Agents Board back in the 70s, he would have been charged for embezzlement, prosecuted to the full extent of the law, and we would not have him to deal with as a past nothing giving all this trouble today. I really have to agree with Sawandi Fabio Sam of the Republic of Guave when he said he wants him to live long enough to lose his mind, which of course has started to happen bigly, as we all can see, because making a statement like that, he has to have lost his mind. Could you imagine this man talking about corruption when we all know if corruption were a person, it would be him and him alone? Folks, you see how pushing people in an organization to improve is not an attack. It's an act of love. So all of you lazy lumpens around the precincts of the NDC, you parasites, because that's how you've been behaving, I am pushing you to conform, change. Hello? You have some work to do, and it's not too late. You have some work to do. I remember a certain NDC operative and minister who was very rude to Sir Nicholas Brathwaite as Prime Minister. He didn't realize, he thought Sir Nicholas Brathwaite would have been one of those lying politicians who tell you he's there for one term and he's going to take a second. But when he realized that Sir Nick was serious about demitting office, oh man, that man sent so many emissaries to Sir Nick to see if they could get him to change his mind, because that lumpen realized he was nothing without the decency of Sir Nicholas Alexander Brathwaite. Folks, what you learn from that? Y'all better change among your whole attitude, because without the newcomer, Prime Minister Deacon Mitchell, y'all was surely to get a hat trick. 15-0 for the third time. Get among yourself together. And I intend to push with tough love. Remember, I want no friend. I'm not interested in that. And I'm old enough to realize all I need right now in my life is a dry place to sleep when the night comes and a plate of food in the day. Hello? I'm not greedy. So ISO will never be compromised. Things will not compromise me, because I know who I am. I have the what should I say? My character is intact. My reputation may be questionable, because remember what I told you, reputation is what people think about you. And people could only think about you from where they sit, from who they are. So that has nothing to do with me, but my character is intact. Pushing people in an organization to improve is not an attack. It's an act of love. So all who know they're not prepared to do no work, go before we have to chase you from here. Because the soldiers in the vineyard, we're getting tired. We're getting fed up with among you parasites. So you better toe the line. Come on, we have room. Let's start seeing the soldiers picking up their armaments and coming out to battle. Because this tropical Trump, with all his lies, the world right now is in a topsy-turvy situation where fake is idolized and real people are demonized. I don't care. I'm always in the mood to be demonized, but I'm going to hold strain to who I am. And we're asking you to join. Because if you don't join, we're going to have to start a call among you out. So Grenadians know who the parasites are. Because this is just a little too much now. Too much. Wake up and smell the coffee, folks. We have a lot more coming in the final segment, so stay tuned. But one more little break, and then we come right back with some more thunder.
Eddie Frederick has got it all. Inspiration, motivation, great advice, and biting opinion pieces as only Eddie Frederick can deliver. Eddie Frederick has got it all.
This is Edification, made possible by the efforts of the Center for Democracy and Good Governance, CDGG. The strength of views and opinions expressed during edification are not necessarily a reflection or representation of the sponsors and or affiliates of this program.
The hurricane season is now upon us, so we as Caribbean people need to remember to think safely and be prepared. Avoid venturing outside during a storm or hurricane, especially if there are strong winds. Rooftops and other debris are often blown about and can cause great damage.
Oh, island in the sun. Look at how we've grown, how far we've run. 50 years we strong and more to come. More to come. More to come. Going higher. 50 years we're blessed with most and fire. Still reaching for more. Going up, going up, 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 going up, going up, going up, 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 up. Higher. Going higher. As we aspire, build up us, one people together. Bang, bang, bang. It's only up.
Eddie Frederick has got it all. Inspiration, motivation, great advice, and biting opinion pieces as only Eddie Frederick can deliver. Eddie Frederick has got it all.
Wonderful, folks. Wonderful. And of course, we've just come back to our final segment here for this particular edition of Edification 241. So bear with me. as we go down hard, because we just have a lot to take care of. A lot. Folks, nations as small as ours must fail when we allow ourselves to be taken for fools and made papi show of as regularly as we have allowed it since 7th February 1974. You see, I was able to see a preview of a book with this title, Why Nations Fail, by Darren Acemoglu and James A. Robinson. And even though I am privy to highlights of this book, I can tell you, I sent for my own hard copy because my appetite has been excited by what it seems to have to offer. The authors argue, that the success or failure of nations is primarily due to the nature of their political and economic institutions, I dare say, and the people who run them. Nothing is wrong with our constitution here in Grenada, folks. What is wrong is with the people who have oversight. And if they have no good character, their use of the constitution will reflect this. You see, Acemoglu and Robinson present the following 7 key lessons from the book. Inclusive political and economic institutions are crucial for sustained economic growth of any nation. These institutions allow broad participation in economic and political life, encourage innovation, and create opportunities for people from all walks of life. That never happened for the most part here in Grenada between 1995 and 2022, for the most part. What do we have today as a result? A disheveled society, economy, and a total lack of vision as a people collective. You see, in contrast, extractive institutions concentrate power and wealth in the hands of a few. These institutions limit opportunities for most people, stifle innovation, and lead to stagnation and, of course, poverty. Look at the very people who comprise boards that the government had anything to do with during the period 1995 to 2022, for the most part. You would believe they were the only people with a monopoly for such roles. And what were the results? Zero, as many of them were spent and lacking in capacity and competency to be so elevated in such positions. Yet they monopolized these positions because of their loyalty to the old nastiness. You see, economic institutions are shaped by political power. When political institutions are inclusive, they create economic systems that benefit the majority. When power is concentrated in the hands of elites, and in our case, an inferior lot between 1995 and 2022 for the most part, the economy was structured to serve their interests and their interests alone. You see, the authors argue that historical events and critical junctures, example wars, revolutions, colonization, can set nations on different trajectories by altering their institutions for better or for worse. Our very history, which presents each experience through the British Crown, of course, colonization, our homegrown Cuban-supported revolution, and the US military invasion, twisted our reality going forward, as no other English-speaking Caribbean territory can boast of such background, which makes for a difference in approach to our remedies for future development and growth. You see, nations thrive when they embrace technological and institutional innovation. Extractive regimes, however, often resist change to maintain the status quo, which can lead to overall economic decline, while their pockets get fat. Look, for instance, at how we teach in the classrooms, how we pay taxes to government, and the lack of efficiency in government systems because of resistance to modernity in many quarters. Why is this so? Your guess is as good as mine, but I could tell you, being accustomed to learned helplessness is a major factor. You see, institutions tend to persist over time. Countries with extractive institutions often remain trapped in a cycle of poverty and corruption because elites resist reform that would diminish their power, while they too deal out scraps and crumbs to their underlings and dependents, helping with the government's policy to populate the vote farm of poor and vulnerable to continue to enable them to cream off the top. You see, while geography and culture can play a role, as Imaglo and Robinson argue, that they are not the primary determinants of a nation's success or failure. Instead, political and economic institutions are the key drivers. And of course, when the people who lead these institutions are flawed in their very character, what can we expect? More of the same, the circular movement to the bottom. You see, this book emphasizes that for nations to succeed and not fail, they must develop inclusive institutions that distribute power and wealth more broadly and encourage innovation and growth. Folks, nations must fail when people who appear all dressed up and look the part end up to be frauds and clueless, because when they open their mouths and given a chance to perform in their various roles, we can easily realize that although the lights seem on, nobody is home. You see, nations must fail when they are made up of too many people who are more focused on sporting the appearance of adults, but who are really kidults, possessing zero maturity because of their lack of exposure to real life experiences, and who will always want something for nothing. The entitled and dependent syndrome, which Grenada, of course, suffers terribly from. I'm going to put it there for you because I think that's something you might want. You hear the coinage, kidults, because we have a lot of people that looking like big people, mature people, old people, and they're nothing but a set of children, you know. Nations must fail when education, real education, is seen as something to cram lessons into your head to arrive at and then avoid it. They avoid education, which is a continuum, because it requires continuous engagement. You see, a lot of people don't understand that. So the phrase, where a nation refuses to be educated, the people perish, comes to mind. And you know, that underscores the vital role education plays in the survival and progress of any society. Education equips individuals with the knowledge, skills, and critical thinking necessary to make informed decisions, engage in civic life, and contribute to the nation's development. Without it, societies risk stagnation, ignorance, and exploitation, which can lead to poor governance, economic decline, and social disintegration. As we who have eyes to see can see, has been our experience here in Grenada under that old nastiness and crew from 1995 to 2022 for the most part. You see, education is the foundation upon which a nation builds its future. It cultivates a knowledgeable electorate capable of participating meaningfully in democracy. It promotes innovation and economic growth and helps to maintain social cohesion by fostering understanding and tolerance among all and sundry. You see, when citizens are well educated, they are better able to challenge corruption, hold leaders accountable, and contribute to the nation's prosperity. Folks, I am boasting, but I just stating a truth. Self-educated. I read. And I thank Mrs. Joyce Antoine, God rest her soul, for taking me in hand as the best gift anybody can give to anybody, teaching them to read. And look at me today, prolific reader. I don't read anything extra because everything I do by way of making a living requires reading, and not stupid reading, proper reading, reading of substance. You see? So I could challenge con men. I could challenge corrupt creatures. I could challenge evil people. I could challenge them. But you see, there's no difference between a person who cannot read and a person who doesn't read. Same level of ignorance abound. You see, when one is properly educated, they do not hang on to the negative and obscene projections of a guilty, lucky to be still out of jail antagonist in any society, reeking of envy and jealousy at the accomplishments of their replacement in such a short space of time. Folks among you like that? Lucky to be still out of jail. Hyphenated word, yes? Lucky to be still out of jail antagonist. You see, in contrast, when education is neglected or refused, the very fabric of society begins to unravel. Look at our Grenadian society today as the living example of this. Uninformed citizens are more easily manipulated by populist, evil, and devilish leaders, susceptible to misinformation and unable to advocate for their rights or the public good. This results in poor governance, as a disengaged and misinformed populace fail to demand transparency and accountability from those who were in power over them for so goddamn long. And having that old devil leader projecting all his devil nonsense and evil, and they clap in. I tell you, Grenada just need fencing, you know. We don't need to expand the crazy house. We just need to fence Grenada, because a lot of people here to be mad. You see, historically, nations that have neglected education have experienced devastating consequences. Ignorance breeds inequality, injustice, and a lack of opportunity, folks. Without education, social mobility is limited, and economic growth is stunted, trapping large segments of the population in poverty and vulnerability. Hello? As a result, such nations become dependent on a small elite class that controls wealth, power, and resources, exacerbating social tensions. You see, in extreme cases, ignorance can lead to the rise of oppressive regimes, as uneducated masses are unable to recognize or resist the erosion of their rights, as was the case here from 1995 to 2022 for the most part. You see, the suppression of education has often been a tactic of dictatorships to maintain control by keeping the population uninformed and incapable of critical thinking, while feeding them lies, which they pass off as national addresses, which those same people miss so badly today. You hear them throwing words every so often? Information is on a need-to-know basis. Tell me something. Who hiding information from you? With our access to social media, information is all around. It's all around. But they want to see, they get so accustomed. Stuck in their head is an image with a national flag behind, coming and just talk. Deacon Mitchell, the Prime Minister, right now, here so now, too busy to come and sit down and talk. You will hear him on interviews. You will see him very often. And no gutter talk. No nasty attacks. And that is what is having the old nastiness crazy. No engagement from the decent Deacon Mitchell. No engagement. A matter of fact, if you ask me, I want to believe that only when they're in Parliament, Deaconess know this man alive. Because you could see him there. But he's focused. And the followers of the NDC need to stay as focused and stop among your stupidness. You see, education is not only a tool for personal growth, but it also a means of ensuring a nation's survival in an increasingly complex and competitive world. Nations that invest in education are better equipped to adapt to technological changes, global challenges like climate change and economic competition. In contrast, nations that refuse to prioritize education may find themselves falling behind, unable to compete on the global stage, while not able to connect the developments in their own local environment, totally influenced by external developments on the international front. Folks, let the old Grenadians come on. People in the diaspora, you're all supposed to make notes of that. Make a lot of posts. Let them know how hard things are in Brooklyn now, how high cost of living is. And if a lot of these people here would engage, look, they just had a summit, an OECS summit in, I think, St. Lucia, and they were talking about, you'd be surprised to know that production is still affected up to today as a result of COVID. So that is helping to drive cost of stuff out. But you have people here, they ain't planting nothing. They're not making nothing. But they're complaining about the cost of living. When everything coming into the country, we import everything for the most part. You have to pay. Look at Trinidad. The people down there bawling for things expensive. Martinique had a whole set of demonstrations recently. They are fortunate to have the French as their head office, so to speak, because they are a department of France. So they could be subsidized. But we have no head office. We have to subsidize ourselves. So you all better get there and start planting things. If you want to stop all this going to VIP and all this nonsense and posing with Hennessy and what you call it, Blue Label and all kind of Gold Label and whatnot in your hand. Get your priorities right. Stop having $2,000, $3,700 phones in your pocket. Sell one, put water in your house. Line up your ducks. Stop all this posing to look like thing happening. But then when you finish pose on the outside, you're creeping in your crab hole in the night. You have to be under pressure. And then you're coming out now using the little data you have, wasting it to post a set of nonsense about how things hard. Things must hard because you make wrong choices. Get your priorities together. I told you all the story already, and I'm telling you again. The gentleman who was the founder, Sam Walton, the founder of Walmart, was asked years ago when they had the Great Depression in the 1930s, was interviewed and asked, how are you making out with the crisis, the Great Depression, that is happening, the economic crisis? And you know what was his response? Oh, what crisis? What is that? Oh, no, I'm not participating at all. I'm not taking part. Folks, that's deep. I'm not participating in all your talk with this stupidness. You know why? Social life done. That's expensive. Social life is expensive. Cut that out. So when I go to the groceries, I don't have to eat my fingernail hoping I could pay for my bills, for my groceries. Hello? Because it's a necessity. I am only paying for necessities now. Hello? Go get with the program now. You see, a lot of you don't understand that. You see, ultimately, where a nation refuses to be educated, the people perish. That serves as a warning. Neglecting education leads to societal decline, loss of freedoms, and an uncertain future. Education is the lifeblood of progress and the key to a nation's long-term success and survival. Remember, it was Aristotle who defined education as follows. He said, education is the constant association with right things and right itself. Constant association with right things and right itself. I'll put that there for you because a lot of you like these little pearls when they come up. Let me just fit it in here for you so you can see that, because it's important, folks. Education is the constant association with right things and right itself. While the late Sister Gabrielle Mason of SJC St. George's fame, she defined it as what remains long after what was learned in school is forgotten. So you see, education really makes one fit for life and fit to live with. Folks, nations must fail when they have too many people who idolize what is wrong and who is or are wrong, while castigating those people and things that are good and right. Nations must fail when we allow the wrong people who promote themselves as bright to lead us in just about every sphere of life, who are unfit to be even included in a race to the outhouse. You know what the outhouse is? A pit latrine. Nations must fail when people can no longer discern truth from fiction. Nations must fail when people do not pay attention and are easily moved by their distractions. Nations must fail when fake people are idolized and real ones are demonized. Nations must fail when people submit to cons whose only intention is to benefit from their abject ignorance, while making every effort to keep them ignorant so they can continue to benefit. Nations must fail when lazy good-for-nothings get into politics and can spot their inferiority complexes instead of settling down to the task at hand and doing the work, so no one can reproach them or even chase them from their currently occupied seats. Folks, I think I should done now. You see, pushing people in an organization to improve is not an attack. It is an act of love. I am in, I am out, and I am gone. Thank you for joining. Continue to share, folks. See you next week at the same time, same place for more extraordinary programming. God willing, of course. Until then, stay safe, stay well, remain vigilant, stay lifted, stay focused. You can find me on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, and YouTube. Just type in my name, Edward or Eddie Frederick. You see, no fake. Edward or Eddie Frederick. Subscribe, like, and share. And be prepared to receive your mental multivitamins as straight up as I deliver them. Toodaloo, folks. Have a great, great week. A productive one this week.
Eddie Frederick has got it all. Inspiration, motivation, great advice, and biting opinion pieces as only Eddie Frederick can deliver. Eddie Frederick has got it all.
This has been Edification, made possible by the efforts of the Center for Democracy and Good Governance, CDGG. The Center for Democracy and Good Governance is a sound organization established to promote and strengthen democracy. For too long now, our generally perceived poorly educated electorate have fallen victim to the cheap and inferior propaganda of those seeking to hold others captive under the guise of democracy. Gladly, the CDGG uses edification to help to actively pursue a sustainable approach to reorient our people towards the importance of electing and selecting people of good character to public life. Through edification, we will highlight the importance of education appropriate to our development, proper health care and facilities as our right, respect for law and order, not to mention upgrading our people's thinking so they could become qualified participants in the democratic process to their advantage. After all, Grenada's national constitution makes allowances for the ideal of free men to enjoy freedom from fear and want, which can be best achieved if conditions are created whereby everyone may enjoy his economic, social and political, civil and cultural rights.
I want the best for my family, so every meal has to be perfect. Every bite has to say, There's no doubt in my mind that the best in frozen meats and vegetables has to come from the Country Cold Store. Hams, turkeys, sausages, beef, pork, chicken. I just don't know my family is in safe hands. Thank you, Country Cold Store, for being there for us for the past 40 years.
There are some interesting specials available at Country Cold Store's Mini Mart while stocks last. Take advantage of these specials as they assist you to stretch your limited funds.
The Country Cold Store, providing the best in frozen meats and vegetables since 1969.
The hurricane season is now upon us, so we as Caribbean people need to remember to think safely and be prepared. Avoid venturing outside during a storm or hurricane, especially if there are strong winds. Rooftops and other debris are often blown about and can cause great damage.
Eddie Frederick has got it all. Inspiration, motivation, great advice, and biting opinion pieces as only Eddie Frederick can deliver. Eddie Frederick has got it all.
Take time and I write down all the things that I love on my island. Best believe the list gon' be like 5 miles long. Best believe it's love that makes me sing this song. The cleanest breeze on the waters. Friendly people meet in every corner. Togetherness and love is what we stand for. We stand for.